Ba-doo, you might be live. You are live. Okay. Another video already, sooner than I anticipated. I thought I was going to be doing possibly some exchanges and things after trying on some things, but of course, the 2 hour or more trip I anticipated to the boot barn only took about 40 minutes and not the worst results. Okay, so I know this is called an unboxing, but they didn't even give me a box, and I bought them in the store, so I already tried them on. So I already know what I was getting, so it's not really an unboxing in the traditional sense. But the last 3 videos, the boot overview, I talked about several different brands and styles and things, and so I'm not going to go into like all of that here, although some of it will be maybe a little bit redundant, and hopefully some new useful information here. I talked about this in yesterday's. I'll do this again. I might bring this stuff up again in another video, but I had talked about this before, where Western wear kind of falls in between. Like, you kind of have your day labor workwear stuff, and some of it you need more heavy duty stuff, and some of it you need lighter duty stuff. And then you have casual wear, where you can work in it, but you're not necessarily working in it. And cowboy boots kind of fall in between those two categories, and some of them are more in like an office casual, dressier category than a work boot category. So I had purchased the boots kind of more in the workwear category, but wanting to be able to mostly dance in them category. And so the Dan Post boots had a walking outsole that you can't really dance in, whereas the Justin boots had a leather outsole. And I had to return all of them, so instead I have Thursday boots here. So I should have opened this box first. But without going too much into it, what I had shown before in the other video. So this is the Maverick boot, and you can see it has the leather, and it gets worn off a little bit when you walk out on the street. And it's a pretty standard, I think this is a 12-inch shaft, 12, 13 being kind of in the range of what I was seeing online for about $250. And I wanted a rounder toe instead of a more square toe, because I already have square toe in these more roper style. It's got the more block heel instead of the riding heel, the taller heel, you know, that kind of thing. And this one is by Ariat. I've showed it before. It's called the Rambler. It's still available for a low price, and according to the Rose videos, they're pretty basic, pretty not necessarily the greatest boot, but I've found them to be still a decent fit and, you know, reasonably comfortable for what they are. And they have the channeled stitch and the rubber compound and yada, yada, yada. And it's just this kind of floppy thing going on here, and it's a lower, it's only like a 10-inch, you know, more like a roper, but without being a total true roper, I guess, whatever that means. But again, with the square toe and the toe bug. Yeah. Anyway, so the Dan Post boots were, you know, more like this, but with this closer to this kind of outsole. And the Justin boots, on the other hand, had this, but the one pair of the leather seemed really wimpy, and the other pair of the leather seemed a little bit closer to what I want. But I already have these, so maybe I'll order those, I don't know, next year or something if I need them. But in the meantime, I have like 2 pairs of these. So, and they cost around the same price. So today, but I wanted to try and nail down the fit between those and the Tony Llamas and blah, blah, blah before I returned all those. And if the Dan Posts were going to be fitting me in a wider width, maybe. Well, they didn't have any of those styles in the store, of course. And even the ones that I got, they didn't have the smaller size for me to even try, which would have been the same size as this, which is almost a perfect fit. So I didn't really necessarily want to tweak it, but they didn't have this size. But I also didn't want to necessarily get boots that are going to be too small because they are a slightly different shape and they are a little bit, so they might have run too small compared to the other ones. Whereas I found a pair of Dan Posts in this size that fit almost perfect, but they also had the same exact square toe. They had a slightly different shaft, but it was like, okay, why? It would just be buying almost the same exact boot that I already am wearing. So no reason to get those. I can always get them later, maybe, if, the sole falls off of these or something. But, got those. You don't need another pair that looks almost exactly like them, except with a more firm thing going on here. And I don't really care for the block heel is a little more comfortable to walk in overall, but it doesn't look as Western, right? So without as much ado, here's your box. Here's the unboxing. And so here's the left boot. So you can see it's slightly different. Just a little bit this wavy thing instead of a turny thing. And the toe is not quite as square down, but it's still not rounded. But I liked the fact that it was different enough. And the shaft is not as high. And you can see there's a massive stirrup shelf on this compared to the Thursday, which doesn't have a terrible stirrup shelf. But it's not that much taller. It's enough that you notice it, but not enough that it's detrimental to my enjoyment, I guess. Of, I was talking about this a lot, and I kind of got cut off on the one video when the signal went bad and I had to end it short, but only by a couple minutes. Part of me wants, like I was even saying, how this leather is not, quite as stiff and robust as I would like, but for the price, it was kind of like acceptable. It's not as super squishy as the Justin one was, the one leather, where the fit was just close, but not quite. I could fit in the smaller size, but I couldn't trust it, to be comfortable forever. Whereas this is nice and stiff. This is rigid. The gal was trying to convince me that the thinner, more exotic leather would actually be more durable than maybe some of these. I don't believe her. I don't know why she would say something like that, and I don't care. Of course, she also tried to convince me that you can dance in this outsole, and that's never going to happen. I definitely did not get this. It's not exactly the same as the Dan Post. I really wanted to kind of walk around in those and see how they wear, and I'm not going to be able to. Whereas, like I said, I already have what's basically the exact same thing here, so I already kind of know how they wear. So, like, whatever. But it does have the taller heel, not the block heel, so at least they look more like cowboy boots when you wear them out and about. But I do slip in it a little bit more. Like I said, they didn't have the smaller size for me to try. So I think I might have to still put an insole in here because I didn't quite get that flop sound, when you put your foot in. None of that. It went on a little bit, maybe slightly, almost too easy, and came off easily enough that I wasn't like scared that I'm going to get trapped in my boots. But I don't want them to be too sloppy when I walk around in them. But also when you walk around in them, your feet tend to swell a little bit up. So not too worried about it. Again, the toe shape being slightly different, I think accounts for part of that. And they are, again, a different size. Well, yeah. If you line it up, you can see it's not that much longer. A tiny bit with the toe spring, maybe, but not really. And this toe box, being what it is, I'm still pretty much all the way in it. Like I said, it's on the verge of being, almost a too small boot. Anyway, so not terrible. And the shaft is nice and rugged, resilient, whatever you want to steal Thursday's words. And it does have the extra spur, or, well, yeah, I guess that would be for your spurs, maybe, or, you know, whatever. The little bit of extra protection. If I don't know if that really helps when you're in the stirrups much. I think this is mostly the big deal. If it rubs here, but of course I probably won't be riding a horse in them anyway, and I don't know if that's a true overlay or a gimmick. I can't really feel any stitching or anything, whereas I feel the stitching here where they come together, whereas I don't feel any stitching there. So that might be a false layer, but it looks cool. And you still got the toe bug there. You got the, what do you call that, broguing, but it's not quite a wingtip, but it does have the broguing up around the, whatever that you want to call this overlay, fake overlay, probably. It does come up a bit higher here. I was showing the boots yesterday where it was cutting off down here, not as much ornamentation and whatnot, but that's mostly decorative. I don't think this really adds to the durability so much. You might get kind of a wear spot there, or it might be a little harder to break in with it like that, but traditionally I'm used to seeing a little more leather going up there. And the rest of this is obviously just decorative. It's nice stitching, similar to what I had before. Again, just the shaft is not quite as high, and instead of aggressive pull tabs, instead here you got the logo. You have the rings, which I used to see a lot more common when I was young. I don't know how much they're in vogue now, but I don't mind. I think they work just fine. You don't really need them on the inside and the outside. It's just for symmetry. I guess some people really yank, but I mean, I typically am more pulling, you know, and yanking with maybe the two fingers on one side, not both. But they're there if you need them. And so on the other side, you still got the thing. I got kind of lazy showing the boots yesterday, I think, because I was a little disappointed when I came to the second Justin boots. I apologize for that here. In whatever, if anybody makes it, they make it. Whatever, if you hear it, you hear it. You didn't, you did. So it's not quite a snip toe, which is a look that I really do despise even more than the kind of, I don't know, brutish square toe. When I was a kid, a lot of the boots had the square toe, but they typically were more harness boots. That was another thing I meant to mention in the overview video, was harness boots. I've never owned a pair of harness boots, but I always liked the look of them. It's another decorative thing. I don't think the harness actually does anything to really reinforce the thing or anything. And there was no foam or stuff in it because they're all floor models. So it is what it is, what it came with. And there's some kind of foam insert, I'm sure. I don't know if I can get it out or not. Yeah. So these, I don't know if this is the model, so it's just snipped off there though. So I can't buy a normal one from a store and have it fit correctly is kind of the issue, right? I don't know how easy it is to replace this and have it fit and da-da-da. But I've never really had too much issue with that. So you can see where the nails is in there and the thing and the thing. And the black felt coming up, same as the previous other brand. So they've copied. No. Yeah, okay. It doesn't go all the way down. It ends. I don't know where the other one ended. So whatever's below of that, the black furry stuff doesn't go all the way down. There's like a micro suede or maybe a leather suede there. And then there's a really robust seam here, which you're going to feel, especially with the shorter shaft and thing and the stiffer leather. I think you're going to notice it, but that's, you know, either you like the boot or you don't, I guess. And again, here we're in the $200 price range, so even less expensive than those other ones. But again, losing some of the looks that I wanted, like the wrong toe and the higher height. So a compromise, but like I said, not a terrible compromise. And again, a boot that I can put on and get off, which is my criteria. And I'm going to do that now because I want to squish down the phone. Yeah, it kind of, it goes on. There's a little bit of the flop, not quite that sound, but yeah, it's pretty close to the right fit. So 7.5 D on these instead of 7. And again, with the taller heel, they're gonna give a little bit more slip, but not. There's not a ton of room for my foot to go when it slips too much, and I'm not running marathons in them. So. Okay, so much for the unboxing. So the other boot, which hopefully looks exactly like the one I'm wearing, more or less. And it's all pretty much machine made, right? So I don't know. So I'm assuming they are the same. Some of these things might be a good thumbnail, but this time I made a kind of more normal thumbnail instead of my screenshot thumbnails, because I forgot that when I upload a video, it automatically does like a screenshot preference thing that you can choose. When I go live like this, it doesn't do that. I have to make my own thumbnail. Stand proud, stand tall, stand for something big. Know where you stand. Okay. There's a whole bunch of tiny little type here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to read this. Moisture Wicking Pro Layer. I think this says layer. They've got a gradated color here, so it's like really white letters on pink, and then it goes down to red where I can actually read it. Antimicrobial Pro Footbed 3 cushion gel or something pad. I can't read that at all. Dissipates pressure, maybe. Oh, for smart. Yeah. Rebound. This is all that jargon that Rose was talking about, right? Where it's just a foam insert. It's not that much excitement. Air vents regulate temperature. Lightweight. Composite. Forked shank. Maximum wear resistance. And then it's all the same stuff in French that I could barely read here. And then it's all the same stuff in Spanish, I guess. ATS Pro. Dura Tread outsole features. Goodyear welt. Rose was talking about one of the models had a not real Goodyear welt. I don't know if that's this boot or not. One of the other ones. I don't remember. There's a whole bunch of cowboy boot videos lately, so I can't keep up. I'm not really worried about it, because again, this one is like glued. Totally looks like it, and I don't know what the stitch does. This one, we have this contrast stitching that was he saying this is like a plastic welt probably, and then the midsole is probably not leather, but maybe leather. And again, I had said in the Rambler video that I did way back when, or one of the videos, that I thought that the vamp was artificial because some of the other boots I had artificial leather shaft. But I guess this is actually leather, and when they said man-made balance, they meant the outsole, I assume. I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is, and it's kind of lined with whatever, but some of the stitching still not coming through, but you can notice it. So I don't know how rough that is, but, and then it says some stuff in here. I can't read that without a magnifying glass, but there is some writing in here. Ariat something something. I assume it tells me where it was made. Style, blah 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 blah. Made in. Oh god, it's tiny. US 7.5. I can't tell if this is China or not. Yeah, I think that says China. Okay, so there you go. But what are you gonna do? For product care and warranty information, visit us at blah blah blah. I never bothered with that. I don't know if buying it from Boot Barn gives me more or less warranty. I didn't even ask. Backed by decades of revolutionary innovation, Ariat delivers the ultimate in performance, comfort, and durability for those who live, ride, and play under the open sky. Or just walk around in the burbs looking like a cowboy some of the time. Characteristics. Duratread, something exterior, blah, blah, blah. And then part of it's in French or something. Features and characteristics on it. So, yeah, okay. I think that's pretty much all the card. So, looking over the boot, looking at the thing. So, like I said, not exactly the same outsole as the other brand, so I can't really give it much. And not exactly the same toe as I typically like, but not, like I said, not too hee-haw or whatever, yee-haw, whatever. A little more stylish, and again, this being probably more stylish than functional, but the leather definitely not a ton thicker or stiffer necessarily, but enough. I would say, like I said, compared to this, where if you were going to be doing actual cowboying stuff instead of just going to the honky tonk, I think that's acceptable. Well, whether or not, whatever, I'm right, who knows. So, okay, I guess I'll give it a go and take a chance on these and see how long they last or whatever. What did I forget to talk about? Oh yeah, the snake-proof thing. I mean, I keep forgetting to mention that, but I had bought those 13-inch snake boots, and people actually watched that video, but they never comment on it. Yeah, I mean, if you're at that point where you're that really worried about snakes, I guess you need, more of a suit of armor than some leather. But, because if you're on hill terrain or whatever, and you're worried about them coming out of a hole or something and getting you in the thigh, your lower leg boots aren't going to help you at all. But it'd be nice if, you could feel confident that, again, it's not just a dress shoe that even a gopher snake could bite through, right? I mean, like I said, this seems a bit thick, and maybe I'm just, giving it more credit than it deserves or whatever, but at least, like I said, at least it looks and feels a bit more durable than a lot of the other ones. Again, not maybe a ton, but enough, I hope. So as always, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'll try and give you a logical, meaningful answer and not just waste your time. And I guess we'll call that then, and see how it goes.